Hello and welcome to episode number 41 of the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast, presented by Fox PHL The Gambler, 102.5 FM, 1480 AM, and iHeartRadio. My name is Jason Fanelli, and I am the Esports and Gaming Insider for Fox PHL The Gambler. And we have a good amount of stuff to talk about this week. We have a fantastic all-women's tournament going on in Valorant that I want to touch on a little bit. I want to talk about everything coming up in the next quarter of 2021, April, May, and June, since we're already through quarter one next week. Hard to believe, but it is the truth. And then finally, we're going to get into a little bit of weirdness with Super Mario and his parent company, Nintendo, who just can't really figure out what they want to do for his 35th anniversary. But before all of that, let's get right in to the 6 in 60 seconds. Sentinels win the Valorant Champions Tour Masters 1 North America, defeating FaZe Clan in the final. Sentinels only lost one map the entire tournament. A Call of Duty League amateur player was suspended for threatening another player, saying, "Keep talking like that, you're going to get shot in the head." Tekken 7 completes its Season 4 with Polish karate expert Lydia Sobieska and the Island Paradise stage. Fortnite and Rocket League Llama Rama crossover event started on March 25th. Xbox Live is changing its name, becoming Xbox Network. And finally, Back 4 Blood from Turtle Rock Studios, the spiritual successor to the popular Left 4 Dead franchise, has been delayed from June to October. Those are your 6 in 60 seconds. And as always, the 6 in 60 seconds are brought to you by the sponsor of Cheesesteaks and Controllers, Ghost Shaver. The Ghost Shaver is designed to feel like an extension of your arm, allowing users to reach anywhere on the head, face, or body. Its precision cutting system gives you a close and smooth shave every single time, with multiple rotary blades, 5 to be exact, and a patented handheld design that fits right into the palm of your hand. It's easy to use and easy to clean. Head to ghostshaver.com to take a look at yours. Ghost Shaver, a shave above the rest. For our first topic this evening, I would like to talk about Valorant. Valorant is one of the highest rising esports in the world today, only coming out last June and already solidifying itself as one of the top leagues to pay attention to. The Masters 1, as we mentioned in the 6 and 60, was won by Sentinels. They start up again in a couple of weeks, getting right back into that. But I'm not talking about the main Champions Tour today. I don't want to talk about Sentinels or FaZe Clan or any of those. We talk about those all the time. And we're going to talk about some familiar names, but not entirely the way that you think about them. Because now we're going to talk about the Valorant Champions Tour Game Changers. Now, if you haven't heard of that, if you didn't hear me talk to Sean Brace earlier this week on the Daily Ticket, Thursdays at 4 p.m., Valorant Game Changers is a all-female or all marginalized genders, so all female and marginalized genders, let's make sure I get that right, tournament. It hosted 32 teams last weekend in the qualifiers, and Thursday it started its top 8. All females and marginalized genders. So you have women players, you have transsexual players, and it really, honestly, I have really not heard of a tournament of this stature for just women before. Of course, there are women-only leagues, there are women-only competitive teams. They exist, they have been around, but never before has a tournament been backed by the company that makes the game for all women, creating essentially a women's league. And honestly, I think it's overdue. I think it's about dang time that we had things like this to celebrate women in esports and encourage women in esports, because as anybody in the gaming industry will tell you, esports or otherwise, being a woman in this field is sometimes impossible to deal with. You have to deal with just horrible harassment and vitriol simply for being a female or a transsexual or whatever it is that you identify as. And that obviously is unfair. And things like Game Changers will do a part. It won't be the entire part, obviously, but will do a part in reversing that experience for female gamers, whether they're teenagers or young adults or any age really. If they enjoy playing video games, it should be celebrated, and they should be allowed to do that as much as they want. And tournaments like Game Changers will encourage that and keep that going for a long time. Hopefully, this is not the only Game Changers they do. Hopefully, there will be more in the future if this one is a success. But before we get into that, I do want to talk about the top 8 teams that are in the tournament. I had the great fortune this past week, 4 on Tuesday, 4 on Wednesday, to sit in on press conferences with the teams that are competing in this week's top 8. You had Team Solo Mid female. You had Dignitas female, which I believe is Dignitas Black. I have to look at their exact name. They have a special name for themselves. I want to make sure I get it right while we're on here. It is just Dignitas female. It's Cloud9 White, TSM female, Dignitas female, CLG or Counter Logic Gaming Red were the teams that were backed by big organizations. But then you had 4 teams who made it that weren't really backed by big organizations, that were groups that were smaller orgs, or even more impressively, just friends who joined the tournament and made it to the top 8. You had Watch This from North America. You had a team called Owa Owa, which I really enjoy. You had a team called Moon Raccoons, which is the second best name for an esports team I have ever heard, because the first one is another team in this tournament. It was easily the most entertaining and the most fun of the 8 press conferences. No offense to the other 7 teams, obviously. They were all great interviews. But this team in particular, a team called Man I Love Fwogs, spelled like frogs, but with a W, as if you're saying it with a cutesy lisp. And I'll let you figure out the acronym for yourself. This all made the top 8. And the Man I Love Fwogs specifically, or Fwogs as I'm going to call them from here on out, was just a group of friends. A group of friends who liked playing games together. They played Counter-Strike together. They played Valorant together. And they decided, hey, let's give it a shot. We can hold our own. Let's see what we can do. And all of a sudden, they're in the top 8 of this huge tournament, getting themselves some exposure. Maybe getting themselves signed to a bigger team, or the whole team getting picked up, which happens sometimes. There's another team in this. I want to say I don't know if it's Moon Raccoons or if it's Owa. I'm not sure which one it is, but it's basically an unofficial team for Gen G, so they could get signed at any time as well. There's a lot of potential for these smaller teams to come in and make some noise, which is exactly what happened here. Now, unfortunately, as I'm recording this on Thursday night, we already have some results, and Fwogs and Watch This North America have already been knocked out. They're already out of the tournament. But if you can find the video on demand, I highly recommend that you watch these teams. I highly recommend you watch these games, especially I Love Fwogs, because they were just amazing. In fact, there's a YouTube channel called Run It Back GG, where the guy who writes for them was in with me and was able to record the entire thing, so you can watch the press conference on that YouTube channel. And if you want to get insight on all of these teams, if you want to find out why TSM was a really cool underdog team to root for, or if you want to find out why I think Cloud9 White was a bit too overconfident. Granted, again, they did win 2-0 today, but something about them just didn't rub me the right way. I'm not sure what it is, but if you want to see why every journalist that was in that conference instantly became best friends with Fwogs, I highly recommend you search out those press conferences. They are amazing, and they really, most importantly, and I'm going to play some audio clips in this right now, give some insight as to what these women think of a tournament like this and how important it is to esports in general. And more importantly, the stuff they've had to deal with in getting to this point. Stuff that they as women players, as female players, as transgender players in some cases, had to endure such nonsense in order to just be a part of it, to get to this point, only because they like playing a game and they had the gall to, be a female. That's it. And they get such awful things said about them and things that they have to deal with as they're playing. It's really, really, really bad. And it's not great to hear. It's not great to think about. And it's certainly not great to have to deal with in their case. And it's not something I would wish on really anybody at all. So this first one is from the FWOGs because they are great. And I would like to highlight them as much as I possibly can. This is their leader, whose name is Dinos, DNOS, which if you really look at it carefully, you will realize her name is Soup, upside down, which I thought was very entertaining. Just talking about how the team was formed and where the team came from. I would recommend that you listen to that now.
We're just best friends that kind of, I kind of like picked everybody up like from the side of the road, and I just like found them all. And the fact that we're able to play in such a big tournament, it's unreal. Like the excitement that we felt when we won in the lower bracket, we were all just screaming and crying, and it still doesn't feel real. It kind of, as cliche as it might sound, it kind of feels like a dream, because being able to play with some of the biggest names in the industry, it's humbling, really. Right?
They're great. They're just great. It doesn't feel like a official press conference, but it is. And they were awesome. I really enjoyed talking to all these teams, but them especially. Just really stuck with me, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that can say that. Basically, what I hope comes from all this is that in this Game Changers tournament, women in esports and women in gaming in general are given more of a platform that they deserve, given more of a spotlight, because they're just as good. I mean, there's no reason why women in esports, women players, women gamers, women streamers, women content creators, what have you, shouldn't be celebrated. There's no reason why they shouldn't be focused on just as much as their male counterparts. Yes, I realize that I'm saying this at the end of Women's History Month, and you may think that I'm just doing this for the points or the internet cloud or the pat on the back or whatever. And I'm serious. I am absolutely serious. I don't see why these players should not be celebrated as much as the others. They grind just as much. They put in just as much time. They balance work and life and game as much as they can. Some of them have children. If you watch the press conferences, one of the players for Watch This, the crib is right behind her. So she's just playing in her home with her, as we all live with our children and our families. They have the support of their families to do this along with their full-time job. It's a lot. And they're killing it in these tournaments and getting the game and themselves pretty decent exposure. And I think that should be celebrated. So I am hoping that if you listen to this, you give Game Changers a chance. Even if you don't like Valorant, just have it on. Check out the game. Check out the people playing it. Celebrate this all-female and marginalized gender tournament, and really give them the respect and clout that they deserve. Because if some of this abuse, some of this vitriol that is shown towards women in gaming can be alleviated through this, then it will be more than worth it. And it'll be one great step in hopefully removing that awful, awful stigma from the industry forever. After 2 weeks of not having anything to talk about, now we have a decent-sized menu of games to play this week. So get out those glasses. It is time for What's on Tap. Balan Wonderworld starts us off. The Yuji Naka developed game, kind of like Nights into Dreams for PlayStation 4 and Xbox and all that. After what's coming out tonight about the final boss, if you are an epileptic, I would avoid this game until it is patched, but just a word of warning there. It Takes Two, a co-op adventure from Joseph Fares of Hazelight. You may remember him as the guy who told the Oscars how he really felt about them at that Game Awards that one year. Reviews for this game are absolutely stunning. I think it's averaging an 87 on Metacritic, so that's one you should be paying attention to. Monster Hunter Rise, all I have to say is Monster Hunter, and you know the quality of the game you're going to be getting there. This is the Switch exclusive Monster Hunter, coming out on the 26th, which is today. As you're listening to this, it'll already be out. Disco Elysium, the final cut, the extended version of the smash hit PC mystery game, coming to consoles at the end of the month. Evil Genius 2, World Domination, a game that lets you play as a Dr. Evil style evil genius trying to take over the world. That's at the March 29th. Look for my March 30th, excuse me. Look for my review on that, coming to MMORPG.com. And finally, Outriders, the three-player co-op shooter game from Square Enix and People Can Fly, known for Bulletstorm. If you have Xbox Game Pass, this is day one on the console, so download it and check it out and see what you think. Lots to sip this week, so answer me this. What's on tap for you? And building on what's on tap this week, considering the last game is Outriders, we're going to talk about in this second segment the second quarter of 2021 and all the games coming out this April, May, and June. Things that should be on your radar, things that you may not have heard of before, but you should be focusing on, and games that are just obvious must-plays for whatever console you have when they come out. I'm starting with Outriders, which I just talked about on tap. Every trailer I see of this gets me more and more excited for it. It really is impressing me how amazing this game looks in practice, and I hope they keep this up when the final release. I will definitely be downloading on Game Pass. I have Game Pass, so there's no reason why I shouldn't, and checking it out there. A couple days later, April 6th, Oddworld Soulstorm. PlayStation 1 players may remember Oddworld, Abe's Odyssey, and Exodus, the original Oddworld games. The series branched off into other things like Munch's Odyssey and Stranger's Wrath, but this is getting back to the basics in Soulstorm, which is very cool. Saga Frontier Remastered, a remaster of a classic RPG from the PS1 era, hits the Switch on April 15th. MLB The Show 2021 on April the 20th. This is a big one for one main reason. It is the first time MLB The Show will be landing on Xbox Series X and Series S, and I believe Xbox One will be getting MLB The Show for the first time ever. There were a couple of years there that because Sony had the exclusive rights to the MLB, Xbox wasn't getting any baseball game at all. 2K had stopped about 2K12, 2K13, I think, and they hadn't made a game since. So now MLB is back on Xbox for the first time since then on April the 20th. That's a very exciting turn of events, and I'm hoping that game is really, really good. Next, we have a remake of a Nier Automata offshoot that came out, was just Japan only, and is now making its way to the States. This is the full title of the game, and really all I have to say in order to let you know just how offbeat and strange this game is. The full name is Nier Replicant version 1.22474487139 ... Yep. If you like Nier, you're going to like that game. And then on April 30th, we have a 1-2 punch of really cool games, exclusives for their consoles. First, Returnal on PlayStation 5 by Housemarque, that most recently made Resogun on the PlayStation 4. If you've watched the PlayStation conferences, this is the woman who looks like she's walking into a house in the middle of a crazy bioluminescent forest, and she's got the space suit on, and she's shooting all these aliens and trying to get out of this loop. It's an interesting little concept. Looking forward to seeing how it plays out. But more importantly for myself, no offense to Housemarque or Returnal, new Pokemon Snap on April 30th. That is where my attention lies. Man, Pokemon Snap, 21 years in the making, finally coming back to consoles in this new game. And things look great. Looks like it's going to be more difficult. Looks like it's going to be harder to get big scores based on your pictures. It's going to be more complicated. There's more Pokemon to picture. I wonder how many special mythical Pokemon or really legendary Pokemon you're going to see in this game. Excited to check out all the different biomes and see what's going on there. Throwing some apples and taking some pictures. I'm excited. I am excited. Pokemon Snap's a great game for the Nintendo 64, and I am really looking forward to the fact that we have a new one coming just at the end of the next month. And that's it for April. Decent slate there. Moving on to May now, and we have some knockout games here, and a lot of the games are coming out in bursts, so it's not very spread out. I mean, they're spread out throughout the month, but they're coming like 2 or 3 at a time. And May 7th is the first big one. That's Resident Evil 8 Village. You've seen that big, tall woman in the white dress, Lady Dimitrescu. We're finally going to see what she's all about in Resident Evil 8 Village. Back to the first person, just like Resident Evil 7 was, still playing as Ethan Winters. If you go back to my Extra Life live stream, you can see me playing that in VR for an hour, because that's about all I can muster. I'm a bit of a wimp when it comes to the horror games, but the story of these games really intrigues me. So I may try to get through Village, to be brave and get through Village just to see how it all plays out and see what the heck is going on with this big, big vampire lady. And then on May 14th, we have 3 interesting titles for different reasons. 2 of them are remakes of old original Nintendo Japanese-only mystery games called Famicom Detective Club. Famicom is short for Family Computer, which is what the Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES, was called in Japan. Family Computer. So if anyone ever asks that at Pub Trivia or Quizzo, now you know. 2 mystery games from that Famicom Detective Club are being remade for the Switch. The Missing Heir and The Girl Who Stands Behind, and they are both coming out May 14th. I'm interested to see if they're going to build on the story of these games, because NES games are notoriously short, and I would hate to see someone spend a decent amount of money on one of these games only to have it be like a 45 to 50-minute mystery. Now, being Japan only, I'm not exactly sure how long the original games were, but if they were a decent length, like 3-4 hours, and you could build on it a little more, maybe get to 6 or 7, might be worth the investment. But I would hate to have someone purchase that game and have it be over in a blink of an eye, or either of those games, mind you. And then also on May 14th, this is a big one for me, that is Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Mass Effects 1, 2, and 3 coming to current consoles, and Mass Effect is, without a doubt, one of my favorite game series of all time. One of my favorite franchises. All 3 games hold special places in my heart. All 3 of them are classics to me. I am one of those people who likes the original ending of Mass Effect 3. I understand that not everything needs to be a super happy ending with, balloons and ice cream and confetti and all that stuff. Sometimes you just got to have your heart broken, and I loved those endings for it. The execution may have been a little strange in the color scheme, but to be honest with you, I was fine with that too. It was a cool idea, and still asking questions to this day. Still asks a lot of questions about that ending to this day, and I hope that eventually we get some clarity on that, particularly with the next Mass Effect that was teased at the last Game Awards. Moving on to the 21st of May, we have Deathloop from Bethesda and Arcane Studios. This is a really interesting game where 2 assassins seem to be dueling it out. One of them is trying to get out of this loop where they die and go back to where they started, and the other one's trying to keep them in there. Very similar to what Fortnite's doing in their storyline, but I have a feeling this is going to be a little more fleshed out, because Arcane, who made Dishonored 2, and a couple other games, really knows how to tell a good story. So I'm looking forward to that one there. Also, Knockout City from EA. This is a multiplayer online game of dodgeball, but set in like a big city with some really cool, stylish moves and stuff like that. I was intrigued by the first trailers that I saw. One of those things where you stroke your beard and you're like, this is interesting. Dodgeball is not something I would expect from a game like this or a company like this, but willing to give it a shot. And then 3DS game Miitopia, which was an RPG adventure starring the Miis that you used to make on the Wii or the 3DS, is coming to the Switch. It's being ported up to the Switch with some extra features there. So if you missed it the first time, you can get it the second time right there. And then finally, in May 25th, the last week of May, we have Biomutant, which is a long-awaited THQ Nordic action-adventure game starring anthropomorphic animals in a action hack-and-slasher. Think like God of War or Horizon Zero Dawn, stuff like that. Not sure if it's open world like Horizon Zero Dawn or God of War. I think it's a little more linear in its storytelling, but definitely has that hack-and-slash button-mashing action. And then Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne HD Remaster, one of the hardest games on the PS2 to find, period, is being remastered for current consoles. So a classic RPG is getting the glow up, and hopefully a lot of people will enjoy that. I'm probably going to jump into it too, just because I was interested in it back on the PS2 era simply because of how rare it was. Now that it's available to me on the Switch, I'm going to have to jump on it before it becomes rare again, aren't I? So that's May 25th. And then we have a bit of a lull going into the next month of June. June the 10th sees a game that I immediately circled on my calendar as soon as it was announced. And that's Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, the PS5 glow up. Let's use that again. PS5 upgrade for Final Fantasy VII Remake, but also coming with an extra chapter starring Yuffie, the ninja girl from Final Fantasy VII, which is an interesting idea. I really, really do enjoy that idea. I like that it's a side story happening along with the events of the main game. I'm curious as to how it will affect our perception of what is happening. I'm curious to see if they will meet at the end of it like they do in the actual game. And I just want to see how things change. So I'm definitely looking forward to Intergrade. And then the same day, Ninja Gaiden Master Collection, Sigma 1, Sigma 2, Sigma 3 for the PS2, PS3. They were remakes of old Xbox games, Ninja Gaiden Black and Ninja Gaiden 2. And then Sigma 3 was its own thing on the Wii. Those are coming the same day on June the 10th. I don't expect that one to do as well as Intergrade because it's just a tough game to go up against. But I do think eventually people will jump into the Ninja Gaiden Master Collection and check that out. I also think that it will help that Ryu Hayabusa is most likely the next character in Smash Brothers, which will bring non-Ninja Gaiden fans to Ninja Gaiden. But that's just me prognosticating. I don't know that for a fact. June 11th also has a bit of a 1-2 punch in Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, one of the most impressive early PS5 demos we have seen in the system's young life. Definitely think that this one could be an absolute system seller if what was promised in those trailers comes to fruition, particularly pulling yourself through a rift and automatically being in the next part of the stage. That was really, really cool tech, and I want that to work. And then for fighting game fans, Guilty Gear Strive finally whets our palate of a brand new fighting game on June 11th, the same day as Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Really digging this one. The game is very stylish. The fighting system looks simple enough to jump into, but tough enough to you have to really sink your teeth into labbing and tutorial modes in order to really get it. Full roster of 15 characters to start with DLC coming afterward. Based on who I'm seeing so far, I may go Giovanna as my first main, or maybe some soul bad guy. Just stick to the classic original protagonist, even though his name's Bad Guy. Yeah, I know. But looking forward to that one. And then we have another bit of a lull in June. 2 weeks later, I guess they're planning for an E3 that may not happen on the 18th. And then on June 25th, we have Mario Golf Super Rush, the return of Mario Golf on the Switch. I am a sucker for Mario Golf games, always have been, always will be. So I'm definitely hoping that this one is a very good one. I like the idea of the mode where you just hit your ball and run to it, and everyone's playing at once, and you can knock into each other and disrupt other people's flow. It's really, really cool. Looking forward to that. And then Bandai Namco's action RPG Scarlet Nexus for new consoles and I think PS4 and Xbox One. This one has been advertised since the very first Xbox Series X showcase back in May of 2020. Very anime stylized action RPG. So if you like games like that, this one's right up your alley. And the last one I have here is a highlight for quarter two is Disgaea 6, Defiance of Destiny. Disgaea, one of the most popular strategy RPGs ever. Turn-based strategy games. Sells millions of copies every time it comes out. And the sixth one finally makes its way over to America on June the 29th. So there you go. That is the second quarter recap, preview. Things that are coming out between April and June of this year. Obviously, delays are possible. In fact, there was a game I was going to be talking about, Back 4 Blood, the Left 4 Dead spiritual successor, but that was moved to October earlier Thursday morning, so I didn't have a chance to talk about that anymore. Honestly, I'm glad they delayed it on Thursday and not on Friday, because if they had delayed it on Friday, I would have probably talked about it tonight and sounded like an idiot on the radio on Saturday. So thank you, Turtle Rock, for indirectly taking me into consideration, even though you had no intention of doing so. So there you go. That's your quarter two. What are you looking to play? What are you looking forward to coming up this month? This quarter, I should say. Feel free to reach out to me at Big Man Fanelli on Twitter and tell me what I missed. If there's any games that are coming that I didn't list that maybe I overlooked, and I will keep those on my radar as well. And finally tonight, we're going to talk about Nintendo. Nintendo's been making a lot of weird choices lately. We've talked before about their cease and desisting Smash Brothers tournaments and not really supporting the esports community. We've talked a little bit about some other transgressions that they have made throughout the pandemic year and stuff like that. They had a string of really bad decisions. Heel turn, I called it, a couple of months ago. And there was one decision that they had made that I really thought that by now they would have reversed. I didn't think we would be talking about this anymore. And yet, here we are. On March the 26th, as you're listening to this, March the 27th, and this decision is still being, it's still going forward. It's still something that they're doing, and I can't believe they're doing it. So, Super Mario 3D All-Stars was announced during the Super Mario 35th anniversary live stream back in September. It featured Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy, classic 3D Mario games that came out on prior systems, all being slightly uptouched and brought to the Switch in one 3D All-Stars collection. Very, very cool little collection. I can honestly say that Sunshine runs as well as it possibly can. I don't think Sunshine ever really ran well, but it runs well in this collection. Mario Galaxy runs smooth as silk. I love that game. I always have. I always will. Mario 64 I have not actually booted up yet, believe it or not. As much as I love that game, I still haven't tried it in the 3D All-Stars realm. And as I understand it, the camera kind of sucks. So I'm hoping that that's not the case. I'm hoping that's patched out by the time I play it. I don't think it will be, though, considering where the story is going. So that you had that 3D All-Stars. And when it was announced, it came with this caveat that on March 31st, 2021, the game will no longer be sold on the digital eShop, and it will no longer be available at retail. Once stock runs out, it's gone. I thought that was strange. You're celebrating the 35th anniversary of Mario. Why would you take things out for a limited time and then get rid of them? And then they announced Super Mario 35, which is a Battle Royale style game where 35 people start playing Super Mario Brothers, the original one on the Nintendo Entertainment System, or Family Computer, as you learned tonight. And they just play, and they play, and they play until there's one player left standing. Now, every time you defeat an enemy, it appears in the other person's game. So at one point, when it's down to like the last 2 or 3, everybody's stage is just flooded with Goombas and Koopas and Bowsers even. It just gets really hectic really fast. That's where the gameplay cycle comes in and kicks in the lower, when you're like one of the last 2 or 3 standing. Very, very fun game, very reminiscent of Tetris 99, which came out, I think, the 2019, September 2019, I think that came out. And that's basically 99 players playing Tetris until one is left standing. Very similar concept. But for whatever reason, that game is allowed to persevere. That game stays in the eShop, whatever you want it. That game can be downloaded at any time. They do new competitions in it called the Invictus Cups. They're always bringing in new franchises for collaborations, all this stuff. That's allowed to persist. But both Super Mario 35 and Super Mario 3D All-Stars are being discontinued as of March 31st. Mario 35 will just be removed and the servers will go down and people can't play it anymore. And as I said before, the 3D All-Stars package will no longer be available, and any physical retail will just go until it lasts, and then it's gone for good. And my question about this, very simply, is why? Why would you do this? I understand making things limited time. That's fine. If you wanted to make the limited time retail package available and then keep the digital one on the eShop forever, or if you really wanted to, money grab, whoever didn't grab the full package could grab the 3 games separately, whatever you would decide to do. I feel like that could be a bit of a moneymaker for a long time. People love Mario. They're always going to love Mario. It's never going to stop. So why you would take away their ability to play 3 classic Mario titles on their Switch just doesn't make sense to me. And it's a $60 package. You're paying $20 a game. So if they separated that into $25 a game, let's say, and made an extra $5 on each title on the digital front, that I think people would still buy it. I think people would still spring for that. I don't understand why they feel the need to remove titles that are celebrating a specific anniversary. Mario 35 should be going on the entire year, not just when it was announced. Not to mention, there are people who are going to want to play these games who don't own a Switch yet, and if they're not able to get one in 5 days or get a retail package, in Mario 3D All-Stars' case, where they can, put it on their shelf until the Switch comes in, that's unfair. And it's isolating and alienating parts of your fan base that doesn't have to. Why would you take away something, 2 things actually, that were commemorating an anniversary when are you just going to bring them back by themselves? Are you going to bring them back at all? Why wouldn't you bring them back at all? I feel like they're still money makers. Mario 35, yes, is free, and there should be places where you could put in some maybe slight microtransactions if you want to make some money, but getting rid of it entirely just seems silly. It just seems weird. It seems nonsensical. And with Mario 35, that one makes even less sense because, like I said before, Tetris 99 is basically the same thing. Tetris 99 is the same exact thing. But A, there's 99 players instead of 35, and B, it's Tetris instead of Mario. Those are the only differences. But the format, the Battle Royale NES gameplay is the same. So, and it seems to be very, very popular. People are still playing it. There was a challenge to see how many Goombas you could jump on in a certain amount of time, and I think players destroyed that goal. So they're playing it a lot. I remember the Bowser challenge where it was how many Bowsers can you kill in a week or 2. That record was smashed, so everyone got that reward. People are playing it. People are having a good time. People are having fun. Why are you taking it away from them? Why are you making this temporary? And if you're replacing it or if you're bringing it back in a different medium, why aren't you telling us that? Nothing makes sense about this approach. And it's to the point now where the internet is calling it the day that Mario was Thanos snapped out of existence, or the day that Mario died, or things like that. So you're getting yourself ridicule and unneeded, what's the word I'm looking for? Unneeded attention, unneeded negative attention. That was an unforced error. You did it yourself. So why are you doing this? I don't understand why you wouldn't keep these on the shelf for people who might want them, people who don't have Switches yet, and will want them when they get one. People who want to be able to download these games off the eShop whenever they want and not be afraid of deleting them later on and losing them forever, like me. It's just a weird situation. And I'm hoping that there's some clarity to it as the day approaches. Like, there's a reason that they're doing this. There's a reason they're taking it away. And they're just not showing their full hand. If anybody is good at surprising their fan base, it's Nintendo. Whether that's good, like the things you see in Nintendo Direct, or it's bad, like stuff like this. So, it's a weird, interesting situation, this Mario's Judgment Day that comes up on the 31st of March of this year. I'm hoping that at the finish line they reconsider. I'm hoping that they decide, you know what, we're going to leave it out because people seem to enjoy it. I hope that more people buy it in this last couple of days who haven't bought it yet already, just to show them that, hey, it's going to be a successful product. Why don't you leave it? I know that I was glad to get it because my kids and I played it. They watched and I played and they loved it. And my elder daughter cried at the ending of Mario Galaxy. So the quality is there. The games are there. I don't understand why you just don't keep them out. But that's neither here nor there. Hopefully by next week I'm talking about the reversing course and keeping everything and everything being great. But if you are interested in Mario 3D All-Stars, whether you have a Switch or not, pick it up now while you still can. They did say that if for whatever reason you purchased it and you held on to it until you got a Switch, the codes in the box, in the physical box, will still work after 3/31. So if you have the code, you'll be able to download it for the foreseeable future. So you don't have to worry about that. It's just for people who downloaded it through the eShop directly. We don't know what's going to happen there. Or people people who want to buy it physically and don't have a Switch yet, they have a bit of a recourse, but that's it. That's it. It's a strange situation and a weird tarnish on Mario's 35th anniversary, but here's to hoping that they reconsider in the next couple of days. Before I go, I do want to mention one thing that broke just now, right before I started recording. I did mention it in the on tap section. So there's this game called Balan Wonderworld that is coming out from Sega, and it features Yuji Naka, who made the original Sonic the Hedgehog. He's a very highly regarded developer. Also made a game on the Sega Saturn called Nights into Dreams, where you played as like a jester in a purple jester cap, and you flew all around. You think it's one of those games where you'd know it if you saw it. You know, it's an interesting looking title, interesting concept. Not entirely sure how it's going to work in practice, but I do want to bring one thing to the forefront. If you were at all interested in this game or you were planning on checking it out, video has surfaced from people who have gotten early review copies or influencers who are playing the game or whatever it is of the final boss battle. Now, normally I wouldn't address this because it's a spoiler, but the way I'm going to address it is as spoiler-free as possible. I don't know who the final boss is. I don't know what his relevance is. I don't know how they got to that point. All I know is I've seen the final boss fight, and there are moments in that fight where the boss makes a piece of the platform or pieces of the platform that you're standing on fall underneath your feet. So if you're on them, you fall, or if you like try and jump over the pit and you can't, then you fall and you have to start over again. Not a problem. Seems pretty standard. I mean, Bowser was doing it in Mario 64. When you got to him the third time, he turned the arena floor into a star. Nothing out of the ordinary here. Here's the problem. Whenever this happens, the way that the game tells you it happens is to quickly flash blinding white light at you, to the point where people who suffer from epilepsy might have a problem. This is like Cyberpunk 2077 all over again, when Liana Ruppert, a Game Informer, broke that Cyberpunk had an epilepsy problem, and CD Projekt Red had to go in and fix it, and it became one of her crowning achievements there, bringing light to this early in her Game Informer career. She's a friend of mine. That's how I know those things. But here, it's even more egregious, I would say. It's even more of a problem because, at least in the Cyberpunk reference, in the Cyberpunk sense, what was the potential epilepsy hazard was something in the game that you put on your face, a device that you put on your face, and in trying to make those flashes as realistic as possible, unwittingly brought up potential epileptic seizure causing patterns. And they were told about it, they patched it, they fixed it, and everything was fine. Here, there's no reason for these platforms, for this flashing light to fall, or to happen while these platforms fall. There's no reason. The boss doesn't do anything to cause them. He doesn't like reach his hand out or snap his fingers or even move. All of a sudden, the screen just starts flashing white unexpectedly, and the platform's gone. I don't get how that was able to clear certification. I don't get how that was left alone. I don't get how that was able to happen and pass everything and be one day away from launch, and people to figure out, wow, this final boss battle could really hurt some of my epileptic friends. People who may be excited for the game get to the final boss, and instead of seeing the end credits, they're seeing the ceiling of an emergency room because your final boss caused them an epileptic seizure. That's not what you want. That's not what anybody should want in game development. So I hope that Sega, I don't think they're going to pull the game. That's a little bit of wishful thinking because it's so close. But I hope they at least consider a day one patch to get those patterns out of there. If it was supposed to be like maybe like a curtain dropping to go with the theater stage show motif, and then the curtain comes back up and there's pieces of the stage missing, that's fine. Put the curtain in there. Don't leave it as it is, because right now it's just blinding white lights flashing in a crazy pattern, and it's going to set off any epileptic gamers that may try and play it. So I implore Balan Wonderland to fix this before it becomes too late, and you don't know, and you're dealing with lawsuits and people hurt, as opposed to dealing with people loving your game and not having any major issues, which is the hope of all developers. Whether or not the game does well, I won't know until the reviews come out. All I know is this final boss video surfaced, and people, rightfully, were upset. and hopefully Sega can make this right and give Balan Wonderworld a second chance with everyone, including those that right now it could harm through useless, nonsensical light patterns. So please fix that, Sega. I would appreciate it. And with that, we are at the end of episode 41 of the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast, presented by Fox PHL The Gambler, 102.5 FM, 1480 AM, iHeart Radio. I am Esports and Gaming Insider Jason Fanelli, and as always, I am so appreciative, so excited, so loving of those who spend their time listening to this show. Means the world to me, means the world to the station, that you support us in this early going with no live events to cover and nothing but my voice to your ears every Friday and every Saturday. We're hoping that once the pandemic clears, we'll have more to do, we'll have more to talk about, we'll have more to see, more places to be, and we would love to take you along on the ride with that. If you want to see some of my work outside of Cheesesteaks and Controllers, now that we are done here, I just had an article posted on Red Bull Gaming, where I interviewed a prominent esports photographer by the name of Stephanie Lindgren. I am trying to get her on this show too. Hopefully we can talk about her career and the type of events that she has shot in her time. So that's over at Red Bull. I think it's redbull.com/gaming is where you'll find that. And then over at mmorpg.com, I just reviewed a solid state drive, an external solid state drive, adding a little bit more extra storage to my PlayStation 5 and PC. Compared loading times, looked at some testing. It fared fairly well. I gave it a 9.0 out of 10. It was a solid drive, no pun intended. Good storage, good reading speeds, good everything like that. The only foibles that I had wrong with it were things that weren't really its fault. Like PlayStation 5 doesn't allow you to store PS5 games on external storage. You can only do PS4 games, which I think is silly. So that was an issue. And then some of their speeds did not compare to the internal hard drive that I have in my PC. But that's just because of the way they're connected. SATA drives will always do better than USB-C connections, and that's just how it is. But go check that out at mmorpg.com. And with that, we are done for another week. Thank you so much for your time and your attention. Until next week, when we talk more about this crazy world called video games, I am signing off. Arrivederci.